So no matter how long you've been lashing, lash mapping is one of those steps that you just don't want to skip because it creates that symmetry between the two eyes and it gives you a finished and completed look. Now, if you don't have a lash map, it's something you could get better at over time, but honestly, if you want to create that perfect look for your fills, for your new sets, you always use a lash map. For me, it doesn't matter how long you've been lashing, I still think you should use that lash map to create perfect symmetry. Now, especially between the two eyes, if we're graduating and doing a very advanced lash map, you want to make sure it's perfectly even on both sides. Otherwise, when they open their eye, you're gonna get a look that you weren't going for. So this just really helps to control the process, and it's a step you definitely don't want to skip. So today I'm going to be showing you kind of just a natural lash map that you can use on almost anyone. Of course, we have our section on eye styling, which you can go over and you can practice with all those different styles, but as you're starting out, it's nice to have just a really natural lash map that you can work with, and that's going to look great on most clients. So what we're going to do is just kind of follow naturally what the eye does. So normally with lashes, with people's natural lashes, you'll see they're a little bit shorter here on the outer corner and quite a bit shorter here on the inner corner. Now you'll see they go, you can look at your own, you can look at your clients, everyone is different, but typically what they do is they're a little bit shorter here, they come up to their longest point right around here, right around the center of the eye, and they start to go down again. So we're going to do something a bit similar to that. It's also really great when you're starting out because you know in that case when you're checking that these lashes can actually support the weight of these extensions. So the first thing we're going to do is you can grab a pen. Some people like to use a Sharpie. The reason I don't use the Sharpie is just because we're so close to the client's nose, and some people don't like the smell, but if your clients are fine with it, that's fine as well. I like to use a pink pen just because I feel that if I had a black one, sometimes it gets lost in here. You can't quite see the lines. So it's just a little bit easier to see in contrast to the lash. So that's why I use a pink pen. So first thing I'm going to do is make a line on the outer corner here where the final lash is. Just to section that off. And next, I'm going to mark off the innermost lash here in the corner so you can see that little lash right in there. I'm just going to mark that off as well on the iPad here. So now I know I'm only going to be working in this area. It just gives me an idea right off the hop. What I'm going to do is find the pupil. So if the client does have their eye closed, just look for that lift in the eye. Have them looking straight because if they are looking off to the side, it could throw it off a little. Now, when you start to get more advanced, you can do your lash mapping kind of with the client's eye open, but to start, you'll be just fine doing this with the eye closed. So we've got the center of the eye right here. So we're just gonna section that off. So those are our first two sections. You can see we have the two sections here. Now we're gonna wanna section it off a little bit further. Now we're gonna wanna split this section in half again, in between this section right here. So right in half, I'm going to draw another line. Now you can see in between here, this is the center of the eye, and these are where our longest lashes are going to be, typically naturally on the eye, and also for the purposes of doing this lash mapping here in this lash set. So now I've cut that in half, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same on the other side. I'm going to create one more section here. Now it is, if you just have these few lines, you only have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections here to fill in. So depending on what lash map you're doing, that may be okay to start, but we are going to add a few more sections in here just to give it a more natural look and a more finished look. So we know our longest lashes are here, so I can actually fill this in here. What we're going to do is a 12mm here. So I'm just going to write that on there so I know this is where my longest lashes are going to be. But we can't drop all the way from a 12 down to an 8 really fast. We need to do it gradually to give it that natural look. So we're going to want to section it off yet again. So I've got my 12s here, but as we start going down, we're going to want to section these off. So I'm going to actually section this one in half again and along here so I can start gradually going down with my lengths. So then I can move down to an 11, a 10, and a 9. So you can see how that natural flow, as it goes down just like that, it's going to give a really natural flow to that outer corner. Now, one thing I like to do for the outer and inner corners, because they are typically so short, is to just do those last couple lashes, hardly any at all, at a really short length. So in this case, you could do them 8mm or even 7mm. I'm just going to throw 8 in there. Just those last, let's say 5 lashes. And that also helps a lot. Not only is it safe and healthy for the client's lash, because that's what it can support, it also helps to lift the eye a little bit so you don't see a drooping outer corner, because if the lashes are really long on this outer corner, you're going to notice it causes a drooping look, and this happens a lot with the cat eye lash map. So even regardless if you're doing a cat eye lash map and your lengths are still pretty long out here and here, you're still going to want to do those last few remaining lashes a bit shorter. Honestly, no one even really sees those ones with the finished look, and it really creates a nice lift in that corner, which it sounds weird that a shorter length would create a lift, but it really does, and it really is a nice, beautiful look. So next we're going to work on these sections back over here. So I'm going to fill these in again. We're going to want to graduate down. So we're going to want to go down to an 11, a 10. I'm going to do one more section here, and a 9. Now on the inner corners, it's always good to have a little bit of a bigger section that is a bit shorter. It depends on your client too. You want to check and see, okay, this client maybe has very short lashes along here naturally, so I'm going to make that section bigger. Now, if they didn't, if you notice their lashes maybe right along here start getting a lot shorter, then you would potentially want to move this line over here. You want to kind of follow what the client naturally has, and you know that's going to be a beautiful look on them because it just follows their natural lash line. So in this case, we're going to assume that this client has a larger section of shorter lashes along here. So I'm just going to graduate down from the 12 to the 11 to the 10 to the 9. Now again, same thing I did on the other side is I'm going to want to just section off those last few lashes, put my 8mm there. You can do 6mm, 7mm. There's so many different lengths you can work with. So even if your client's natural lashes are very naturally short, we can still make sure that we're using safe and short lashes on those inner and outer corners. You'll see when you're looking at them, they're quite thin, they're quite fragile. Maybe not thin, but they are fragile given that they are a lot shorter. So you don't want to, let's say, throw a 12mm on the outer corner. It's just too much for the natural lash to handle, and it can cause damage, so you just want to be really careful with that. So here's a basic lash map that you can follow on most clients. It's really natural, it's going to create a beautiful look, and it's a great place to start, but don't be afraid to play around with those lash maps that we have for you, and you can just practice with all those different ones. Get as much practice as you can. You can practice just drawing these out on your mannequin head to start, and then when you're ready, you can start working these on clients as well. So there's our basic lash map that you can follow on most clients.